Welcome to Civic Corner. I'm your host, Ebonee Jae, and I have with me our ever-loving politician in training. Are we going to do that?
Hey,
All
who
right.
knows what God has in store?
And introduce yourself.
Brother Timothy Walker.
That's Brother Timothy Walker. We're here today. We're going to talk to you about some of the issues, some of the key dates and important information. Of course, we have a presidential election coming up, so today we're going to educate the people, talk to them a little bit, make sure that they know what's going on, making sure that they go vote if they haven't voted yet. By the way.
Oh, look at you.
Listen,
yes, it's you.
I'm certified now.
Okay.
I did my civic duty.
Yes.
So typically what we like to do is start off with a little information about civics itself. Civic, let's start there. Civic itself, look at us. Yeah. Okay, so what's one thing, we'll do a question and answer. What's one thing that you hope the people know about civics?
It's participation and not just voting. It's a continuous participation in your government. And there's a variety of ways that you can participate. Voting is just the beginning and the most, probably the most popular way. But there's a lot more you can do in between the seasons, the election seasons, to keep your government responsive to you.
You want to know what mine is?
What is yours?
Well, you said participation, right?
Yes.
I think mine is recognizing that, you know, everybody gets a little bit more riled up about the national level, but you really need to pay attention to your local and state government as well.
Because it touches you closer and it affects you more.
Right. I think a lot of people have that perception that it's just the president, but there's so many layers to it before you get to the overarching things that the president is actually implementing or taking away or what have you. So people probably need to pay more attention, not more, but equal, if not more attention to the local and state level.
Yes, because crime and education and sanitation and all those are very local. And some of the government really doesn't have primary, the federal government doesn't have primary scope over a lot of these issues.
Especially with one of the hot topics being that all of the power would be returned back to the states and making some important decisions. Right. So you really want to make sure that you have people in that level of government that, you know, in case that does happen.
Yes, very much.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about national issues. Of course, we know we're about, less than a week away.
Less than a week.
From knowing who's going to be covering the next term and being, you know, quote unquote, in charge. So what are some of the key things that you want to make sure that people know?
This is a very unprecedented election.
Yes.
One candidate has only been on the scene as the nominee for at least 3 to 4 months.
Which is crazy.
You're right. Another has been here before. This is his third time running. And then it's a very close election. And it depends on you going out to vote.
Yes.
And just making your voice heard. Sitting out or voting third party, or if that's your prerogative, all these will change the which way this might go.
Yes.
And will make for a long night.
A very long night.
A very long night on Tuesday.
Are you gonna have a watch party?
You know, I wish. I'd rather go to one.
Rather go to one?
And then the host one.
Okay, all right, perfect.
But I think we should all, like I said, the polls, they're going to tell you one thing or another, but you control where it's going to go. Yeah. And only you know who you want that in that office. And only you can walk down, roll down, or however you get down to the polling place and what you're going to do.
Right.
So don't let a poll or don't let a pundit or don't let a local politician or whoever tell you what to do and what not to do.
Right.
You go down and make your voice heard.
Right.
You know, because the time is now. Here in Virginia, the last day to early vote is Saturday.
So by the time this airs, it will be the next day, technically. That will be the last day of early voting.
Okay, yes. So I hope you get to vote.
Yep.
And then, of course, the official last day for everybody in the whole country is the day.
On Tuesday.
November 5th,
Tuesday.
Indeed. Yes, so that's going to be a very important day. Some people like to go down and stand in the lines on the day of and say, I voted on that's all right. But early voting is definitely important. It opens it up a little bit wider to have more people participate. I can't wait till we put voting on a Saturday for the nation. That'll be interesting when we can finally do that.
Right.
But that's a whole debate of itself.
Right.
To make it a little bit easier, a little more accessible to people. But it's in the middle of the week, beginning of the week.
It's a day. A lot of companies give people the day off or give them time off in order to vote.
Yeah,
so, I do like that is a thing
right
that
is
now,
true,
not an actual deterrent.
Or to work the polls. That's
to work the polls. That is an option as well.
Yeah.
I will tell you my experience with early voting was very, very easy.
Yes.
I actually voted in the city of Norfolk.
Okay.
And it was a breeze. I think I walked in and I was out in less than 10 minutes. And shout out to all the poll workers at the city of Norfolk's early voting poll place.
Yes.
Great job.
Yes.
And so
that's what it should be. And that's what voting should be.
Absolutely.
And some states are different. Voting is a little bit harder, or they make it a little bit harder.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got a lot of states, including Virginia, where we've had a couple of measures and a couple people have gotten their hands slapped because of some of the measures that they've tried to implement when it comes to voting, i.e., restricted voting in some ways, throwing out ballots. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the things that you've heard about measures restricting or,
Yeah, so the governor of our great state of Virginia recently was sued by the federal government for ordering his, State Department of Elections, Secretary of State, what have you, to purge registered voters who their citizenship was, question mark.
Okay.
And they were depending on DMV records and what have you. And of course, he did this so close to the election that he skirted or violated a federal law. That's what it's alleged, to not bother the voter rolls within 90 days of the election. So that was,
I know in previous elections we've had did you have the right paperwork with you?
Exactly.
Your address may have changed because not everybody goes to one house and stays for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
It's a little crazy in this day and age. So we have a lot of people who change either localities, counties, all within the same state. But there was an issue before that, if your license didn't match this, then you couldn't. And, they were throwing out. So all kind of measures.
And all kinds of little stuff on the day of.
Right.
That's why we always say what's good about being in the 21st century is that we have the internet. We have they made a lot of stuff electronic, so you can go and look at your status, look at where you're registered at, and say, oh, hold on, we need to change this, or oh, I need to make sure I have documents that say this or whatever.
Right.
So
make sure you check to make sure and see what is necessary. One, if you are still considered registered. Two, what information you need to take with you just in case.
And if your polling place has changed,
Yes.
I've been on campaigns and just on the data side of a campaign, and we're trying to gauge, all the locations. And sometimes I would see, or if I'm looking at data from older elections and trying to compare, there's frequent changes of polling places. So, in districts, and that kind of thing. So that's very important.
Yes.
That you just know, you remember you voted down, last time down the street at the school.
Yes.
It might not be down the street at the school anymore. It might be at the church now, around the corner.
Right.
Same district, but different polling place. So just stuff like that.
Do your homework.
Because you don't want to be standing in line for the wrong
place. You need to prepare.
Exactly.
I will tell you that I was one of those folks who actually changed not just polling places, but districts or locales. And so I was up there making sure that I was registered. I was not. Or it wasn't that I wasn't registered, but basically they had tried to send, their checks and balances to my old address. And because I didn't answer, my mail did not forward, they had me as not. And I was like, oh, no. We are not doing that. So then even though I sent in and updated my information and they sent me confirmation, I still showed up with every bill. I showed up with my passport, with my license, every other way of identification that I could. I made sure I had it with me on the off chance. They were like, no, I was prepared. So one message we would absolutely say is make sure you're prepared.
Make sure you're prepared.
Make sure you're prepared.
And just check. I mean, there's a lot of, it's easier to check now.
Yes.
So there's no excuse.
No, none whatsoever. We also had some incidences where people were setting ballot boxes on fire.
Yeah, other states. So there's actors out there that, rogue actors. Yeah, rogue actors out there that want to disrupt the election. So, and they could do it in a variety of different ways.
Yeah.
It could be threatening poll workers. It could be bomb threats of a polling place that they know is going to be packed on election day. Intimidation. Yeah, just and where it would have to literally, for safety reasons, shut that polling place down.
Yeah.
So what do you do with those people? Because they technically they're not at the other they're not on the rolls at the other location. So there's stuff that happens.
Yes.
But yeah, there's in the state of Washington and the state of Oregon, there's a person that was driving around and setting the ballot boxes on fire.
That's crazy.
And these were where you could they made it very accessible again in that state to all right, you don't have to come all the way down here, or if you don't trust the mail's going to get it there, well, you can drop it off yourself.
Okay.
To this box.
Okay.
And we're going to we'll have a trusted person to come pick it up.
Okay.
But here you go. But that also left it open for somebody to say, okay,
right.
Well, I know there's some ballots in there, and
let me go do it.
And I think maybe they'll be more towards this candidate versus this candidate. So I'm just going to go, put them on fire,
right,
and see what happens. So.
Right.
They're still looking for that guy or that lady.
They haven't found him yet. Okay. At the time, yeah, that we're recording this, they had not yet found.
Yes.
Got it.
So,
okay.
but stuff like that happens, and just be on the lookout.
Yes.
In the various states, and if you think anything is affecting your ballot,
yes,
or anything has affected your vote or your access to the ballot box, there are numbers to call. There's people to call. Vote, election integrity units.
Yes.
That will. File that claim and be able to follow up with you to see what actually happened. So both campaigns have it.
Mm-hmm.
Most campaigns have it. They have dedicated lawyers and staff for that reason. There's a hotline, I think, for a national one. So it's very important to just be informed.
Yep, that's what it keeps coming down to, being informed,
and that
looking, listening, being aware, and what do they say? If you say something,
if you see something, say something. Yeah.
So I know, we're talking a little bit about that, but let's talk about some national shenanigans or issues. Everything is a shenanigan to me. So what are some of the national issues that we are facing, especially when it comes to not only picking the candidate, but just for the nation at large? And a lot of these things are at stake, not only when you pick the candidate, because, it reflects and goes down to like the Supreme Court. We got two, Supreme Court?
Possibly
2 Supreme
just
Court
based
positions.
off their age.
Right, coming up.
So just human frailty.
But what are some of the things that are hot topics when it comes to what the candidates are really honing in on?
Right. So this cycle, it seems to be, of course, the economy is huge. Immigration is huge. The border, our southern border. And I think abortion has crept up to be, and will continue to be a big issue since Roe was overturned at the Supreme Court level. So those have been the ones that have been animated the most. But there's, of course, education, policy, of course, taxes go there, housing. So some of the other things that kind of touch the economy, but definitely those big three have been, that's all we hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot at stake.
Yeah. So, the border, people have whatever you feel about it. You might feel like, there's a lot of people here that shouldn't be here. You might feel that. Or you might feel, well, we are the land of the, free, and that people are coming here. They come here for a reason. So you might feel one way about, people being here. You might be that person that arrived here from, and not just the southern border, but any border.
Yeah.
I have friends who definitely overstayed their had visas, but they were, maybe a student visa, or maybe they were, just a temporary visitor kind of visa from another country. But they were kids themselves, and their parents did that. And so what do? They have contributed. They contributed to the nation. So you might feel one way or the other about it. But there's one issue. What do we do? There's people that's in the shadows that don't want to come out. They're scared, and they're in jobs that, sending money back and all that kind of stuff like that. And are those jobs that we would want to do?
Right.
There's a debate about that.
Right.
There's scare tactics. Well, they're taking our jobs. Well, were these jobs that we even wanted to do? And what would you do? On the other side is a mass deportation. How does that even look? What does that do? because they might be working, it might be kind of undocumented, but they're working.
Right.
And so what does that do to that employer? What does that do for agriculture? What does that do for all this kind of stuff? So these are the things that there's a clear delineation between both sides about what they want to do.
Right.
So for the economy, some people say they felt better 4 years ago. Stuff was cheaper. Some people say this is the greatest economy I've felt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very personal thing.
It is a personal thing.
Right.
I think a lot of these are personal issues: the economy, how you feel, immigration. You know, we didn't touch on it too much, but even the abortion issue.
Yeah.
You know, the right to choose.
Right.
You know, we've always had the pro-life, pro-choice.
Right.
You know, but
dichotomy,
I think
yeah.
Right, but I think the stakes are a little bit higher because now the Supreme Court has made the decision that they've made and giving power back, and they're just seeing the impact on people's lives.
There were laws on the books, abortion ban laws on the books that have been there for years in anticipation that the court would strike down Roe versus Wade.
Wow.
Because, you know, when a Supreme Court makes a binding decision, they make a decision, it becomes the law of the land.
Right.
You know. And so that decision kind of dictates every other decision in the lower courts or laws that are being made even on the state level. And and so they always interpret, okay, what does the Supreme Court say about this? What would they do to this law?
Right.
Roe versus Wade being the decision. And when the decision was overturned by another case, it now said, all right, each state can do pretty much what they want, or this is a state issue. So it automatically triggered some of the laws in these states. It specifically said if Roe versus Wade is ever overturned, this law will be triggered.
Right.
So some of these bans, and so it is very real.
Right.
And women and families are having to travel out of certain states to go get an abortion or to have that care. Whatever that care is, and it's such a personal thing. Yeah. But that has animated this debate.
Yes.
You know, some states have initiatives on the ballot to codify the right to an abortion in their state constitution, Arizona being one.
Right.
So again.
Well, you know, I think which is a perfect segue, because let's talk a little bit about some of these state and local issues. You know, we are seeing things where they may roll back and nationally, you know, in the Supreme Court, et cetera, they may not have the final say because we may roll it back where the states are the ones that are in charge. So let's talk about some of the state and local issues that are up for Virginia particularly.
Yes, education is huge.
Yes, it is.
That is kind of the wave of this current governor when he came in almost 4 years ago. Education, school choice, parental rights in education. And you would think, oh, this is, you know, this shouldn't be political. And but it has become so political, so toxic.
It has.
That school board races have become school board meetings have just become, you know, and they shouldn't be. We should all just want the best education for our young people. You know, in terms of materials and curriculum should be, because you know, we're educating a whole generation of people, and you would want them to be competitive globally. So we should be looking more global in some of these things. But education is so local, local and state level. You know, they're the person they're the groups that are primarily responsible for education. Right. The federal government has a role in education, but it's more limited. You know, the Department of Education is just, you know, they're like I would say a watchdog of different things. And you know, so that's another topic for another day. Yeah. Our departments, we should definitely do that one day.
We should
talk about our departments, federal departments. But definitely in Virginia, education is huge.
Yes. One of the future episodes, we will definitely talk about the different departments that exist on the national level and how they roll down.
How they affect,
Good. All right. We talked a little bit about the state level, education being one of the very big things. There are some others, and I know we can't touch on all of them right now, but let's go a little deeper. Let's talk about local. Some of the things when you go in there and you're actually voting on the ballot, not only do you have the national, the state, or what have you, if it, is affecting you in the terms. But then there's also these propositions or things down at the bottom.
Right.
We have some from a state level, and we also have some from a local level.
Right.
Let's talk about on the state level that everybody will see if you are voting here in Virginia. What is up on the ballot for the state level?
So the legislators put forth kind of a proposal to change a law, or really in this respect, expand I think a tax exemption for spouses of military people who are killed in the line of duty. And so the way it's worded is, should we expand the exemption that's already in place for spouses of military people who are killed in the line of action?
So, okay. So now you said line of duty versus line of action.
Or killed in action.
Killed in action. So what is the difference? Because I know someone walking in who may or may not be a military spouse, military themselves.
Exactly.
And, for those who aren't in that, may not know the difference between the two. So in a very short brief, what is the difference between killed in the line of duty versus in action?
So of course, action will be an act of war.
Okay.
And being that we're not technically in an act of war anywhere, like officially, and that's probably how technical they'll get is, we're in a state of war. Was your spouse over there fighting in the war? That'll be that killed in action.
Okay.
But all people who are serving the military active duty are active duty.
That's the line of duty.
And so that's the line of duty part.
Okay.
So you could be
friendly
state
fire,
base. Yeah, you could be anywhere.
And
just, and killed. And so do we expand what is already there for the spouses of military folks who are killed in action? Do we expand that tax exemption to now a little bit broader community of people who are affected by their spouse being killed while in the military? So
perfect.
That's going to be on everybody's ballot.
Everybody's
a
ballot.
Yes or a no answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do we have any propositions or proposals specifically for local, like Norfolk versus Portsmouth versus Suffolk versus Chesapeake, and so on and so forth?
Right.
Do we have any on the ballot?
I think there's only one, and that I can find in the city of Chesapeake, where they are saying, hey, would it be okay to assess $10 on each household that receives the city trash services?
Okay.
To so they can institute or bring back, I guess they had it before, bring back city recycling collection.
Got it.
So instead of hauling your stuff down to the recycle place, we'll pick it up. But of course, that's going to cost.
It's going to cost. Okay.
Yeah. So they want
convenience.
Right.
Convenience is there, but it's a cost.
Yes.
It's a cost with everything. So we've covered national issues. We've covered state. We've covered a little bit of local. So hopefully, if you have not voted yet, you know that these are some of the things that are going to face you as you walk in. If you have voted, thank you very much for doing your civic duty. We're going to start wrapping up.
Yes.
So what I would like, I'm not happy that we didn't cover the national level as much as we have in the past. We wanted to make sure that people understood the state and local perspective.
Right.
We will continue this discussion, even though the election is on Tuesday there, civics is an ongoing thing.
It is a very ongoing thing.
And so, but what I want to do is, what is one thing you want to leave with people, overarching out of everything that we kind of spit out today and talked about and have been talking about leading up to this?
Yes.
What is something that you want to leave with the people?
You are in control of this.
Yes.
And it might seem that, well, if I don't do this, if I don't, or if I listen to, you listen to the TV and you see the ads and you just get overwhelmed, and of course you're overwhelmed with your own situation, whatever that might be in circumstances. But the direction of the country is in your hands, whichever direction you want to go. I'm not, we're not here to push you in this direction versus that direction, but you have,
the power is yours.
You have the power.
Yep.
Yeah. You, this is a democracy, a representative democracy, and we elect our representatives to speak on our behalf. And, but you have to get out there to elect. Yes. And my favorite political saying is, if you are not at the table, you're on the menu. So that should get you out there and say, let me be at the table. And the first part of being at the table is depositing that vote in that box, or electronically pushing that button.
Yes, yes. And it's a very simple process.
Yes.
I think my note would be, do your research.
Yes.
Okay. Voting is number one, but there are so many other things that we can do. So make sure that you get out there, you vote, you inform yourself, read. Do not just rely on viral moments.
Right.
Do not just rely on key touch points, bullet points that have been in a speech, and that's what you do. Please do your research, read, make sure you inform yourself. We have been given a great gift. There are a lot of people who came before us who fought for this opportunity. Yes. So number one, vote, because again, a lot of people died for us to be able to do this. Number two, inform yourself so that you can have an educated decision, personal or otherwise, when you go into there. Three, make sure you watch Civic Corner. We're going to be here quite a bit in order to make sure
there's
that
a governor's race coming up next year.
Exactly.
Uniquely.
There's a lot coming up.
Yes.
So if there's something that you want to hear about, you want us to discuss, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. We would gladly, because we want to make sure that we inform whether you are 8 or 88. And on that note, we are going to go ahead and kick it. Again, hopefully you have a great voting experience, and we look forward to catching up after Tuesday.
Yes, so we'll definitely catch up after Tuesday to see who's actually elected our next president and all the Senate and
everything that comes. It was great seeing you.
Yes, it is.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes.
I am your host, Ebonee Jae, and this has been
Brother Tim.
And this has been your Civics Corner. Take care, peeps.